Hello and welcome to the Public Sector Debate Competition. We are now at the octafinal round. That is the round of 16 teams. I'm Tamika Gunmighty, communication specialist here at the Transformation Implementation Unit and your host for this match today. We are happy that you have joined us whether here at 6 Saxthorpe Avenue or on our social media platforms. Today is the final day of the octafinal round. In this round, the top 16 teams will battle it out for a spot in the quarterfinals. So 16 will become 8. Yesterday we had our first 4 advancing, and today we will have our final 4. If you missed any of the debates, remember, you can catch up on the exciting matches either on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. Continuing the action this morning, we have with us the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Tourism, and they will be debating the MOOT. Be it resolved that external examinations for secondary school placement in Jamaica should be abolished. Very controversial MOOT. I know we're all excited to get the match started, but before we do, we'll have the teams introduce themselves, beginning with the Ministry of Justice.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Clayton Williams, and I am the first speaker for the proposition.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Powell, second speaker for the proposition.
Good morning, everyone. Demoy Whiteley, reply speaker for the proposition.
Thank you so much to Team Ministry of Justice. We'll now turn our attention to the Ministry of Tourism as those debaters introduce themselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shakina Morgan, first speaker for Team Opposition.
Good morning, everyone. Matthew Blake, second speaker for Team Opposition.
Good morning, everyone. Davita Keane, reply speaker for Team Opposition.
Thank you so much to the team from the Ministry of Tourism. Now we turn our attention to our adjudicators for today's match, our partners from the Jamaica Association for Debating and Empowerment, and the judges will now introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Tamika. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jermaine Barrett. I'll be the chair adjudicator for this match, and I'll allow my colleague adjudicators to introduce themselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Roshana Jarrett, and I'll be your wing adjudicator for this match.
And I'll also be joining this panel. Good morning. My name is Najami Steele.
Thank you so much to our judges. Ladies and gentlemen, the teams are familiar with the rules, so I now turn over to the judges. All the best to both teams.
Thank you. And if you're joining us for the first time, a very special morning to you. For you specifically, you might not be familiar with the rules of the engagement for this match, so I'll just go through those rules. I'm sure the teams are already very much familiar. So the first speakers rather, on either team will speak for 7 minutes, the second speaker for 6 minutes, the third speakers will speak for 5 minutes. After the first 2 speakers, that's first proposition, first opposition, we will enter an exciting period of cross-examination, and another segment of cross-examination follows the second pair of speakers. When I get to those segments, I'll explain the rules that govern those the cross-examination sections. After the second cross-examination section, we will enter a minute of pause. The debate will pause for 1 minute. And then at the end of that 1 minute pause, we'll resume with the reply speaker from Team Opposition, that's Ministry of Tourism. And then the debate concludes with the final presentation from the third speaker, the reply speaker from the Ministry of Justice, the proposition team. Debaters, are you ready? Let me ask again. Are you ready, debaters? Yes. That's better. That's better. So without any further delay, I call upon the first speaker from Team Ministry of Justice, Team Proposition, to open the debate. Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, esteemed judges, worthy opponents, members of the audience, good morning. When we look into the eyes of our children, what do we see? We see promise, we see potential, we see the future of this nation. Young minds brimming with creativity, energy, and dreams. But Mr. Speaker, how can we truly claim to believe in their future when we continue to judge their worth, their ability, and their destiny based on high-stake examinations long before they are even teenagers? That is why we stand firmly today to support the motion, be it resolved that external examinations for secondary school placement in Jamaica should be abolished. Let us begin by clarifying the key terms in this motion. External examinations refer to standardized tests administered by a national or external body, not by a student's classroom teacher. In the Jamaican context, these include the Primary Exit Profile, PEP, and the now retired Grade 6 Achievement Test, GSAT, and the Common Entrance Exam. Secondary school placement is the process through which students transition from primary to high school, typically around the age of 11 or 12. To abolish means to formally end or eliminate something regarded as harmful or ineffective. Assessment refers to the various methods used to evaluate, measure, and document the learning progress, skills, and academic achievement of students. There are different types of assessments, and this distinction is crucial. External examinations are formal, one-off tests set by an outside body. They focus on final outcomes under timed conditions. Before I present our key arguments, let me provide a brief historical background to contextualize these exams in Jamaica. The island system of external examinations began over half a century with the Common Entrance Exam introduced in the early 1950s. At this time, Jamaica was expanding its educational system rapidly, but secondary schools were few and could not accommodate the primary school graduates. The Common Entrance Examination was introduced to allocate limited secondary school places fairly among students. As the Jamaica Gleaner 2012 reported, this system was a necessary but rigid solution for a growing education demand. However, Jamaica has long outgrown this system. The issue is no longer just about rationing scarce places, but about how to ensure every child has access to a quality education. The focus now should be on building enough schools and facilities to accommodate all students as originally intended, not on gatekeeping their futures with stressful exams. In 1998, GSAT replaced Common Entrance, condensing the assessment into a single test, but critics argue it maintained the high-pressure, one-shot testing model. Then in 2018, the Primary Exit Profile, PEP, was introduced as a modern, more holistic approach, aiming to reduce stress by spreading assessment over 3 years. Yet, as many educators and experts have noted, this reform has not lessened the burden, but rather prolonged it. Jamaica Gleaner 2012. Our team presents three key arguments. Firstly, these exams are flawed in structure and purpose. Secondly, that they worsen inequality in the education system. And thirdly, that abolishing these exams leads to healthier, more effective learning outcomes. Let us first tackle the exams themselves, their preparation, their process, and psychological impact. We began the Common Entrance, a grueling 4-day exam. We moved to GSAT, a single high-pressure year that encouraged memorization and rewarded test-taking skills, more than true learning. In 2018, PEP was introduced, promising to be holistic and modern. But instead of easing the burden, it simply prolonged it. PEP starts in grade 4 and continues through grade 6, meaning that for 3 years, children as young as 9 years old are caught in a web of testing, assignments, and constant evaluation. So instead of a 3-year exam, we now have a 3-year pressure cooker. This is not a solution. This is an accumulation of stress over time. Even the Minister of Education, Mrs. Dana Morris Dixon, recognized that children continue to experience stress into high school. In a 2020 article in the Jamaica Observer, she admitted Many students, after leaving primary school, not ready. Some are functionally illiterate and emotionally overwhelmed by the system. And the problem is not just about stress. The structure of the exams is simply flawed. It assumes that all students are equally ready to perform under formal test conditions, but they are not. And the problem is not just about stress. Oh, I said that already. Students with learning differences like dyslexia or ADHD, the exam system is not designed to help them. Students from low-income households, they cannot afford private tutors or specialized test prep materials. So, Mr. Speaker, if the very exam system is set up a way that favors some and fails others, how can we say we claim it is a fair tool for placing students? But now, let us shift to the bigger picture, the systemic issues in the Jamaican education system. These exams, more than stress individuals, they shape the system itself in healthy ways. They force schools to teach to test, narrowing the curriculum. They encourage parents to panic, teachers to drill, and children to perform, not to learn. And they reinforce a damaging hierarchy of schools. We all know it. Some schools are considered elite. Campion, Immaculate, Woolmer's, Monroe, Cornwall College. Others are dismissed or overlooked even before students set foot in the classrooms. That is not just an exam issue. That is a systemic problem rooted in how we resource schools, train teachers, and value different communities. This is why we must be honest. Changing or removing the exam alone will not fix inequality, but keeping it makes things worse. We are calling for the abolition of exams to stop this cycle of harm. I will leave the discussion of what comes next and the alternatives exams to my second speaker. Thank you.
We thank the first proposition speaker for his contributions, and we now invite the first opposition speaker to open the opposition's case. Hear, hear.
Esteemed adjudicators, my opponents, and members of the audience, a pleasant morning to you all. It is both an honor and a great responsibility to stand before you today to challenge the MOOT. Be it resolved that external examinations for secondary school placement in Jamaica should be abolished. This morning, I will not only refute the arguments put forward by the proposition team, but I will also demonstrate beyond doubt that abolishing external examinations for secondary school placement would not be a step forward, but a step backward. Let us not be too quick to abolish a system simply because it comes with challenges. Sometimes the solutions we rush to embrace cause greater harm. The first speaker on team proposition mentioned a lot of arguments, which, as I stated, we will debunk. Firstly, focusing on final outcomes. The system of PEP does not focus on final outcomes, but more it focuses on students preparing for exams from grade 4 to 6, which will also prepare them, when you mention stress, for holistic and real-world challenges. So yes, it may seem like it's stressing them, but at the end of the day, life in itself is a lot of stress, and preparing students and young minds, grooming them to deal with these challenges, will also be able to help us not to have a lot of mental breakdowns in the secondary or tertiary school systems. As I go into my argument, in Jamaica, the context we refer to, as stated by the first speaker, for secondary school placement external exams is PEP, the primary exit profile, a fair, equitable, and transparent system. A system that supports merit. It promotes accountability and gives every child from every background a chance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Jamaica has long trusted external examinations as the primary and impartial method for placing students into secondary schools. Over the years, the system has undergone two major reforms, evolving from the rigid common entrance exam of the 1950s to the grade 6 achievement test in 1998, and now the primary exit profile introduced in 2019. PEP is not just a test, Mr. Speaker. It is a series of assessments undertaken between grades 4 to 6, as mentioned earlier, which serves as a placement mechanism for secondary schools. It emphasizes effort, Mr. Speaker, over entitlement. Mr. Speaker, PEP is used to determine the students' strengths, weaknesses, and their readiness for grade 7. PEP includes 3 types of assessments, namely the performance task test that is undertaken in all applicable years, the ability test, and the curriculum-based test, which are undertaken in grade 6. Each year of assessment contributes 10, 20, and 80% respectively to their grade. As it relates to the placement, students are given 7 school choices, 5 of which are preferred and 2 are proximity choices. These exams are administered according to the prescribed guidelines laid out by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, and utilizes examiners and invigilators trained by the Ministry's Student Assessment Unit, along with registered and equally trained teachers to administer the yearly performance task tests. My 2 key arguments today will be that the PEP exam promotes accountability and equitable student placement, and 2, an external exam placement system is the best fit for Jamaica. External examinations, Mr. Speaker, such as PEP, are standardized, transparent, and auditable methods of assessing the competencies, potential, and readiness of students that equate to equitable placement. PEP entails a multifaceted testing and placement system that is clear and fair, Mr. Speaker, encouraging accountability at multiple levels. It holds educators at the primary level accountable for delivering the national standard curriculum. Educators are also held accountable for ensuring that a child's critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving skills are nurtured in an effort to prepare them for the ability test component. PEP's multi-year approach allows students and parents to better track their strengths and weaknesses, with the aim of tracking their readiness for secondary school ahead of the grade 6 exams. To this point, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development notes that test-based accountability practices have been associated with improved academic performance in low and middle income countries. Systems such as PEP also provide the ministry with consistent data to evaluate the performance of schools island-wide, identify gaps, and allocate resources more strategically based on the needs of students placed or retained at the varying primary and secondary institutions. Additionally, as a way of being transparent, this data is also shared with the public via the annual PEP National Report. PEP is a more equitable option when we look at it, Mr. Speaker. PEP serves as a tool for social and educational equity. Equity does not mean that all students obtain equal education outcomes or have the same opportunities, but rather that the differences in students' outcomes are unrelated to their socioeconomic circumstances. Mr. Speaker, equitable placement allows for high-achieving students from rural and economically disadvantaged communities to earn places at top-performing high schools, such as Campion College, Immaculate, Wolmer's Girls, or Monroe College, based on their academic ability and not, Mr. Speaker, who their parents are or where they reside. Not accepted at this time. While manual placement takes place under the PEP system, less than 10% of students were placed manually, and over 85% of students placed in a preferred school of choice, that is in their top 5 since implementation. Numbers that are similar for Jamaica's socioeconomically challenged students, that is those students on the PATH program, which accounts for 84% of students being placed in their preferred school of choice. To this point, Mr. Speaker, Jamaica's Education Transformation Commission in 2021 highlighted that students from underserved regions have consistently excelled in external exams such as PEP and have gained access to traditional high schools that they might not have otherwise had access to. Mr. Speaker, this is a strong indication that the PEP system is helping to disrupt cycles of poverty and educational disadvantages in Jamaica. Moreover, the inclusion of the ability test and the performance task test ensures that students with different strengths outside of performing well on traditional exams have the opportunities to demonstrate their potential. Such an inclusion and disruption depicts the equitable nature of an external examination system being used for secondary school placement. My second argument, Mr. Speaker, an external exam placement system is the best fit for Jamaica. Systems such as PEP provides a more suitable placement mechanism noting Jamaica's current economic and educational landscape. In 2023, Jamaica was noted to have the second highest expenditure in the Caribbean for education, with the same accounting for 5.9% of our GDP. However, that notable increase in our education spending annually or financial limitations as small and developing states, compounded by the fact that the amount of students being expected to be supported with the limited fund, it continues to contribute to the disparities in the school infrastructure, teacher quality, and learning materials. The disparities seen in the Jamaica school system are more pronounced at the primary level due to the dichotomy that is traditional high schools and upgraded high schools. While the government may be trying its best to support schools equally or equitably, traditional high schools have long-standing reputations, Mr. Speaker, and better resources due to their strong and supportive alumni, such as the Kingston College, Jamaica College, and I could go on and on. As a result of these disparities, a transparent and merit-based placement system such as PEP can be trusted to ensure that most, if not all, Jamaican students are placed equitably. I now hand over to my second speaker, who will delve further into his arguments. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much. First speaker on team opposition representing the Ministry of Tourism. We now enter the first segment of cross-examination, and the rules are as follows. The opposition team, Team Ministry of Tourism, will get a chance to ask 3 questions of Team Ministry of Justice proposition. Each question is limited to 10 seconds, and each response from the opposing team limited to 30 seconds. After those 3 questions and answers have been expressed, then we flip and allow the Ministry of Justice team to ask their questions of the Ministry of Tourism. So, Ministry of Tourism, you may now ask your 3 questions of the Ministry of Justice.
Okay. So do you believe that internal assessments which are conducted by individual schools can be trusted in a country like Jamaica that faces moderate levels of corruption? If so, how will bias and manipulation be prevented?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So do you believe that internal assessments which are conducted by individual schools can be trusted in a country like Jamaica that faces moderate levels of corruption? If so, how will bias and manipulation be prevented?
So I do believe that internal assessment can be executed within the primary schools and prep schools in Jamaica. How can it be managed? There are different government entities, governing bodies that are there and also can be established to ensure that there is a curriculum in place and that the assessments that are being implemented matches up to the curriculum that are in place according to where they are in primary schools.
Going back to your explanation, but that meshes well with what happens now under PEP. So how would it be different and how would it result in better results in your world?
So the nature of our argument is that the future of our children should not solely dependent on these rigid examinations, but over time, a continuous level of assessment that one is not preparing them for a high school placement, but for overall learning and holistic development. We have seen students who have matriculated, done well where exams are concerned because they're prepared just for exams and tests, but are failing when they get to the high school level because of failure to matriculate and failure to learn the other stuff that are required.
So then what mechanism will replace PEP and how exactly will it guarantee 100% student placement in a timely and organized manner as PEP currently does?
All right, well, I don't want to give away what my second speaker will be sharing, but that is in her speech. But if you want, we have internal assessment, which will be done over a prolonged period of time. But as I said, second speaker will get into that.
All right, thank you very much, Ministry of Tourism. Thanks, Ministry of Justice. We now call upon the Ministry of Justice to ask your questions of the Ministry of Tourism.
How do you address the disadvantage being faced by students who are faced with anxiety and stress from these external examinations?
Well, currently we believe that is, we understand that there are disadvantages due to stress, but we believe that stress does not just happen when it comes to external exams. So even in internal assessments, this is an issue that students will face and need to be addressed.
The problem isn't external exams. The issue is proper psychosocial support for students. So abolishing external exams will not solve the problem of stress because that can stem from any kind of assessment.
And do these public schools now have that required or appropriate psychosocial assistance to assist these students with any of the solutions being suggested,
well,
or even
all
where
public
PEP is
schools,
concerned?
I believe, all public schools are equipped with a guidance and counseling department that provides this kind of support to students, and if necessary, can be tailored to specifically address exam-related stress if that is as big an issue in your world.
What is the role of the guidance counselor in primary schools?
To provide guidance and counseling services and to also help to execute the HFLE curriculum in primary and high schools as well.
All right, thank you very much for that segment of cross-examination. We continue our debate. This time we make welcome the presentation from the second speaker from Team Ministry of Justice representing the proposition side. Hear, hear.
Every child deserves a fair chance to succeed, not to be judged by a single moment, but by their continuous growth and potential, according to Henrietta Fore, former Executive Director, UNICEF. Our opponent stated that external exam system is better for Jamaica. And they also emphasized the stress-related matter as it relates to our students. We will show in our argument today that this is a bluff to the system, that it's a flawed system that they are proposing. And we will also identify the different alternatives to this system that they are proposing. Mr. Speaker, esteemed judges, worthy opponents, and members of the audience, good morning. They say education is the key to success, but what happens when the key we give our student is rusted, warped, and only fits a few locks? That is the reality of external examinations for secondary school placement in Jamaica. So let me unpack why these exams must be abolished. Mr. Speaker, for decades, Jamaica has relied on the common entrance, GSAT, and now PEP to determine high school placement. Though rebranded, the core remains unchanged, a high-stakes, one-off external examination. A 2022 study by the Caribbean Center for Educational Planning found that over 68% of students placed through PEP were not performing at grade level upon entering high school. These exams capture a single snapshot of performance under pressure. They completely ignore creativity, emotional intelligence, resilience, and collaboration, traits essential for success in the real world. That is a dangerous oversimplification of human potential. Meanwhile, countries like Finland and Estonia, which avoid early high-stakes testing, consistently outperform us in literacy, numeracy, and student well-being, according to OECD 2023. If our aim is to nurture well-rounded learners, we cannot rely on outdated tools that were never designed to measure the full scope of a child's capability. Mr. Speaker, external exams don't level the playing field. They tilt it even further against the vulnerable. Even the Jamaica Teachers Association 2024 condemned PEP as age-inappropriate and emotionally damaging, citing its role in student burnout and widening social disparities. This isn't a placement system, it's a class filter. The best resource schools go to the best resource students. The rest are left behind. Changing the name from GSAT to PEP doesn't change it, not at this time, doesn't change the inequality, it just repackages the injustice. If we're serious about equity, we must dismantle systems that punish poverty and privilege. Mr. Speaker, let us be clear. Jamaica does not have to remain shackled to a system that continues to fail too many of our children. We have a golden opportunity to adopt a model that is fairer, smarter, and rooted in success. Let's look around us. Countries like Finland, Ontario, and Canada, and New Zealand have already transitioned to models that emphasize continuous assessment, student portfolios, and project-based learning. And guess what? It works. These systems have led to better academic outcomes, lower stress levels, and improved student well-being. Even right here in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago have successfully piloted similar systems in select districts. Now, what would this look like for Jamaica? Teacher-based continuous assessment. This means reinvigorated regular classroom assessments from early primary school based on class participation, projects, and coursework. Not just a once-a-year cramming session. Student portfolios. These are living records that document not only academic progress, but creativity and character. It's a snapshot of the whole child, not just a test score. Project-based learning, real-life practical assignments that foster collaboration, innovation, and critical thinking, skills every Jamaican child deserves to develop. Now let's talk about placement, because that's where the real anxiety lies. Yes, we acknowledge that we already have assessments in place, but here's the difference. What we propose is a shift in emphasis, rebalancing the existing continuous assessments, the assignments, teacher evaluations, and portfolios, but to remove the external high-stake examinations that place enormous pressure on children and parents alike. Instead, we will use an aggregate score system, one that draws on assessments over time, capturing consistent effort, growth, and progress. This is a more holistic, fairer, and more accurate way to determine placement. No child's future should hinge on a high-pressure exam days. As the system matures and stabilizes, we can consider introducing zoning as a complementary strategy, ensuring access and resource equity across schools once the foundational elements of the reform system are firmly in place. Mr. Speaker, The path forward is not just possible, it's necessary. Let's not waste another generation clinging to a broken model. Let's lead with courage and change the future of education in Jamaica. Abolishing the current exam system could also free up billions of dollars annually earmarked to administer, mark, and review. So what would we do instead? For national moderation system for credible and fair assessments, invest in teacher training and hire more specialists, modernize school infrastructure for equal access to quality learning environments, equip classrooms with digital tools to bridge the urban-rural divide, provide school-based mental health support through trained psychologists to identify students with differential learning pattern. Mr. Speaker, this is not about leaving a gap. It's about filling one. It's about building something better instead of pouring money into a broken system. We invest in a future where every child has a chance to thrive. We're not creating a vacuum. We're creating a vision, or one where postal code and income no longer determine destiny, and where Jamaican children rise, not because they survived the system, but because the system lifted them. Mr. Speaker, the evidence is overwhelming. External exams are flawed in design, unjust in their impact, and unnecessary. So when better models already exist. So opponents, let's be clear. We're not abolishing structure. We're building a better one. We are not rejecting standards. We're demanding standards that are fair, child-centered, and future-ready. Every Jamaican child deserves more than one shot at success. Let's stop sorting children like products on an assembly line. Let's start nurturing them like the future leaders they are. It's time to abolish external examination for secondary school placement and unlock Jamaica's true potential. I rest my case.
We thank the second proposition speaker there from the Ministry of Justice. We now call upon the second opposition speaker representing the Ministry of Tourism to present their speech. Hear, hear.
Honorable adjudicators, team proposition, my colleagues on the opposition and audience members, good morning. As second opposition speaker, I write with conviction and a chalkboard of common sense to uphold the opposition's firm rejection of the motion. We oppose the abolition of external exams or secondary school placement in Jamaica. Why? Because the abolition of external exam placement systems like PEP threatens not just a method of assessment, but equity, meritocracy, and transparency in our education system. We agree that the status quo, while not perfect, offers a system that is clear, fair, and functionally inclusive, especially for students from rural and under-resourced communities. I will build on the solid foundation set by my first speaker, which outlined the accountability built into PEP, and that it is the best fit for Jamaica given our educational disparities, by proffering two additional arguments: that abolishing PEP would cause more harm than good, and that PEP's advantages are holistic, supporting not only placement, but overall student development. But Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, I find it judicious to address some of the claims made by the proposition. The proposition is seeking to paint PEP as a one-off, high-stakes exam, but it's a multi-year approach that starts from grade 4 to 6. And based on how they've structured their arguments, they're seeking to blame the issues with the broader education system on external exams. Yes, the education system needs to be elevated, but the link that you're making to external exams as the issue is very shaky, very flawed, and inaccurate in many senses. Mr. Speaker, based on the Ministry of Education's 2019 to 2022 PEP national reports, PEP guarantees placement for 100% of registered students, including those with special needs, by age 12. Abolish this system and you open Pandora's box. Uncertain placement timelines, bottleneck processes, and unscrupulous placements. The result, chaos, not clarity. Under PEP, high-performing rural students can rise on the merit of their scores, regardless of geography or socioeconomic status, as opposed to what the proposition is trying to say. But without PEP, we fall back on options like zoning, where your address determines your future, or internal assessments where grades can be inflated and favoritism flourishes. Look no further than the United States, where zoning has entrenched generational inequality. Property values dictate school quality, so wealth controls access. And in Jamaica, a child in Almontown, yes, they might be zoned to Woolmer's, but her equally brilliant counterpart in Loydasville, rural St. Catherine, who would have earned her way through PEP, under a zoning system would find herself stuck with the nearest likely under-resourced school that is not equity. It is elitism disguised as reform, not accepted. Worse still, Mr. Speaker, the 2018 OECD report, Equity in Education, Breaking Down Barriers to Social Mobility, warns that internal-only assessments disproportionately disadvantage marginalized students, particularly in unequal education systems like ours. And let's be honest, Jamaica is perceived as a moderately corrupt society. To pretend that some parents wouldn't pay for placement or that some schools wouldn't inflate grades to boost enrollment or national rankings is dangerously naive. The risk of tampering becomes a certainty, and transparency takes a backseat under the system like the proposition proposed. We've seen it before with the 2018 SBA fraud case where a teacher submitted fabricated student work as part of internal assessments. In New Zealand, which they have cited, there was a 2011 grade inflation scandal where 29% of internal grades were found unreliable. And in the 2016 Bihar exam scandal in India, bribery was discovered to have skewed student results. But outside of the issue of fairness, there's a deeper concern, logistics. The abolition of PEP would place the burden of placement on individual schools, grinding the process to a crawl. Would risk having students still on place after September morning, not accepted at this time. And let us not be fooled. Those with money, mobility, or influence will navigate their new system very well. But rural and inner city children, they'll be left behind. Mr. Speaker, abolishing PEP does not correct inequality. It exacerbates it. Let us not tear down a bridge that is built for all our students to get across and not just a few. Beyond placement, Mr. Speaker, PEP supports holistic student development. Its multi-year structure allows students and parents to monitor growth, address weaknesses, and celebrate strengths well before grade 6. This process builds resilience, not pressure, and offers room for continuous improvement. No child is left guessing their academic fate. Moreover, the performance tasks assess creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking, skills that Jamaica desperately needs in this age of innovation. The ability test assesses aptitude, not just acquired knowledge, giving late bloomers and non-traditional learners a fair shot. More than just a tool for evaluation, Mr. Speaker, PEP's placement system supports long-term mental and emotional health. It ensures that students are placed where the curriculum matches their cognitive readiness, leading to increased confidence, higher motivation, and lower stress. According to a 2018 UNICEF report on the Accelerated School Readiness Program, when students are placed in environments aligned with their learning readiness, their self-esteem increases and their risk of disengagement decreases. And it's not about learning outcomes only, Mr. Speaker, it's about identity and overall mental health. As in 2017, psychologist Robert Feldman found that students experiencing chronic academic misplacement were more likely to report feelings of alienation and lower life satisfaction. Mr. Speaker, misalignment between a student's ability and their academic environment doesn't just waste potential, it erodes overall well-being. As PEP is not a blunt instrument, it's a scalpel structure to assess students based on what they, not only on what they know, but how they think, how they solve problems. Abolish this and we risk losing a holistic development tool. Mr. Speaker, abolishing PEP is not a step forward. It is a reckless leap into chaos. It removes the very ladder of opportunity that allows a bright child from Rocky Point or Seaforth to stand shoulder to shoulder with their peers at Campion or Arden, not just because of their postcode or payola, but because of performance. So I leave this house with a challenge. What issue are we seeking to address, and is abolition the solution? It is not. PEP is fair, PEP is clear, and PEP is here to stay. I turn over to our reply speaker.
We thank you very much for that presentation, second opposition speaker. We now transition to the second segment of cross-examination. And the rules that apply to this segment are that of the same rules that would have obtained in the first segment of cross-examination. So, without any further delay, we call upon the opposition team to pose their 3 questions to the proposition team.
Good morning, judges. Good morning, team proposition. Currently, Jamaica spends 86% of its school funding on compensation. Under your program, we will see this balloon. How do you expect Jamaica to then maintain or meet the needs needed under that system?
So currently they spend 86 on compensation, but they do spend over $1 billion on the execution and administration of PEP. What we're saying is some of these funds, which they would not be using where PEP is concerned, could be spent to actually put in place the different infrastructure needs of the primary schools and also the possible aids that these students might also need. Let us also not be fooled.
If PEP is abolished and school placements are left to internal assessments or zoning, what safeguards will be put in place to stop favoritism, bribery, or backdoor placements in the already oversubscribed schools?
I think the opposition is ignoring the fact that these issues are still very much present where PEP is concerned, because at the end of the day, a child from Stella Maris or a child from Uptown, from 4th grade, their parents have been investing in tutors, taking away their time that they should be learning cognitive skills or skills to help them as a child, but to go classes to prepare for PEP. So you're basically ignoring the bigger issue, which is we are preparing, or we have been preparing our students just to pass these exams and not to actually learn.
What we are referring to is not what the parents can do for their children, but what the teachers are able to do in this case, as it relates to favoritism. So we're asking, what will you do to stop the teachers from exhibiting favoritism, bribery, or backdoor placements?
There is a curriculum in place, and there isn't a way that a teacher can go around favoritism. And as I said to you, mechanisms will be in place by governing bodies and boards. Maybe something can be established with the absence of PEP to ensure that how the assessments are done, the outcome of the assessments are matched based on the curriculum, based on where the student should be, what they should be learning, what they should be exhibiting. And also this program can show if the teacher themselves have been actually working.
Of cross-examination. We now move on to the second phase of the segment, inviting now the questions from the Ministry of Justice posed to the Ministry of Tourism.
How does the external exam system fairly accommodate students with ADHD, dyslexia, or other learning differences, given these exams often do not provide sufficient support for these units?
Because PEP has a multi-year approach, year 4 and 5 allows the schools to note these challenges, get the children tested, and there is a mechanism to have these children placed in a different pathway towards secondary education. So that is accounted for under PEP, unlike in your system currently.
And what's that different pathway?
There are 3 pathways to moving forward. Based on how you assess in grade 4 or 5, they will determine if additional support is needed for the child, and that support is provided, because not all students are placed in traditional high schools. If they need special needs, they are also placed in the special education institutions that are available under the government.
If PEP is not abolished, how will you address the illiteracy issue that we currently face with these exams going into secondary school?
PEP highlights that there is an illiteracy issue, and again, this is a failure more of the system, and the inequalities that face Jamaica and are unique to Jamaica's system, as in comparison to Finland, who can afford to equally fund and have equal level of teachers across the board. So again, that is not a fault of PEP, that is a fault that PEP highlights for Jamaica that can be fixed.
Thank you. Thanks to both teams for that rather insightful series of questions and answers. I think they deserve a round of applause. We're now going to pause for 1 minute to allow them to refresh themselves, mentally at least, ahead of the reply speeches. At the end of the 1 minute, we'll begin with the reply speaker from Team Opposition, that's the Ministry of Tourism, and then we'll conclude with the reply speaker from the Ministry of Justice. Your 1 minute begins now. Okay, so that signals the end of the 1 minute. We now resume our debate with the presentation now from the reply speaker from the opposition side. Let's meet that speaker. Welcome.
Honorable judges, worthy opponents, and esteemed audience, as the third speaker for the opposition, I am here to refute the claims made by the proposition and remind you that available and credible research and data and Jamaica's socio-economic reality deems placement systems such as PEP as the right fit for Jamaica right now. Mr. Speaker, all that glitters is not gold, and the proposition has argued that systems such as zoning or those based solely on internal assessments are better options for Jamaica. But in reality, when it comes to placement, these systems will open the door to manipulation and corruption in a country that is already perceived as corrupt. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, these systems are unclear and unfair. We offered you the example of zoning in the United States, which should serve only as a cautionary tale for our island, as this system is just income-based segregation. Secondly, our second speaker tackled the stress argument, highlighting exams as temporary and not exclusive to just external exams. However, the stress of being underplaced and overplaced is detrimental to our students in the long run and will occur in more occasions if PEP is abolished. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the proposition team stated that over $1 billion is slated towards PEP currently, but $1 billion in the funding budget is 2.1%. What they are suggesting would balloon teacher compensation, an area, a thorn in the government side already, as teachers are not properly compensated. We are adding more stress to our teachers and expecting them to do the work that the government is already doing. PEP is a modern, multidimensional, and auditable exam-based placement system that leaves little to no room for favoritism. PEP allows every student from Westmoreland to St. Thomas to be placed based on ability, and it works. Mr. Speaker, we have shown that it works. On average, over 84% of registered students, including students from Jamaica's poorest household, are placed in one of their preferred school choices. Yes, currently you have occasions where Jamaica's rich or Jamaica's elite gets their school of choice. But without PEP being the equalizer in placement, this will happen on a wider basis. Furthermore, as PEP includes 3 different types of assessment, it caters to the different learning strengths of our students. So unlike the team proposition has stated, Jamaica has and continues to move away from the teach-the-test nature of PEP predecessors such as GSAT. Our students' creativity is being nurtured under PEP. Additionally, the OECD links test-based accountability practices with improved academic performance in low and middle-income countries, and test-based systems such as PEP have a multi-level approach to accountability. PEP holds schools, teachers, parents, and even the Ministry of Education accountable in the overall success of our students, a level of accountability that is unmatched in non-external exam-based systems. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, unlike countries such as Finland, the education system in our small island developing state has notable disparities, especially between rural and urban areas. Because of this reality, we need a placement system that is impartial, data-driven, and merit-based, and PEP is that system. Penultimately, opposition stands by the point that the abolition of systems such as PEP allows for a smooth placement mechanism to become chaotic, uncertain, and unscrupulous. Let's not pretend corruption won't happen. Examples such as Jamaica's SBA scandal and those offered for New Zealand shows us the abuse that can occur under internal assessment systems, and that will occur if standardized systems such as PEP are abolished. Lastly, research shows that equitable placement also has emotional and psychological benefits, which can contribute greatly to the long-term academic success of most, if not all, our students. Mr. Speaker, abolition threatens such a benefit for Jamaica. In closing, the opposition is not naive to the fact that external exam placement systems such as PEP are not perfect, but they are right for Jamaica right now. This system supports equity, promotes accountability, while taking into consideration our unique educational landscape and our nation's economic reality. So we say to you, let us continue to move away from inequality, inequity, and corruption, and not impede the educational progress of our children in the proposition's pursuit for perfection. Let's protect fairness, support mobility, and build a better future for all Jamaican students by continuing to utilize and improve the system that is in place and that is right for us. Let us keep PEP. We strongly oppose this move.
Thank you very much, Reply Speaker from the Ministry of Tourism, concluding the opposition's case. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now welcome the final speaker in our debate, the Reply Speaker from Team Ministry of Justice, representing the proposition side. Hear, hear.
Ladies and gentlemen, judges, my opponents, thank you. Now, I'm here this morning to conclude, which has been a very wonderful debate on the matter of external examinations for secondary school placement, that they should be abolished. Don't get it wrong, ladies and gentlemen, my opposition. On this side, what we're saying is that the bigger secondary school placement is not where the priority should be. And PEP and those from Common Entrance time, GSAT time, has done, yes, it played its part, but what it has also done is to highlight the different issues that are there in the educational sector. And what we're saying is that now is the time to stop putting Band-Aid on the wound and actually dress the wound, which is really the issues that we're having in our education sector. Now, the opposition would have mentioned about external exams being unfair and discriminatory. Now, let us look at it. I did GSAT some years ago. I won't reveal that because age is against us. But in my little community, I was afforded to go to Saturday class because my security teacher was like, all right, we see how the potential you can go. When I got to Kingston College and I was in class with some classmates, the stories that I was told from some of my classmates were that they were in after classes from 2 to 6 every evening. They did Saturday class, they did Sunday class, and during the holidays they did not get much time, and that is from 4th grade to 6th grade. Now, how does this promote equity and equality when my single household family could not afford to send me to Saturday classes, but someone from uptown was able to better prepare themselves in order for them to get a better shot or a fairer shot at a traditional high school? Let us not be fooled. We have approximately 45 traditional high schools in Jamaica in comparison to 120. What we're saying is that we ought to ensure that there is no need for placement, there's no need for the emphasis to be on secondary school placement, but for students to be able to learn and develop themselves holistically so that wherever they go, wherever they matriculate, not pass, wherever they go, they have a clearer shot at life. Let's talk about stress and the undue stress that students who go to non-traditional high school are placed under. I had a friend, all of this is personal to me, I had a friend who went to Edith Dalton James High School, and when he recounted his trauma, when he recounted all that he had to do to ensure that he got a fair shot at CXC, that's not half of the things that we had to do, and part of his biggest challenge was that he was in a class of 45 and he was the only one who understood how important education was and was the only one who was working towards getting those CXC. How do you manage when you're supposed to be learning from your peers and all that you're learning from your peers are negative influences? How do you struggle and manage? Is that an appropriate thing for a child at his age. No, it's not. Stress is okay, as the opposition would have said, but stress at that age is very much unnecessary. They will learn in life, but to put them under that undue stress isn't necessary. We have shown today that external exams like PEP reward privileged, not potential students from wealthier families who can afford tutors, extra resources, and best schools, while those from undeserved communities are left behind. Is that the kind of fairness we want for our education system? We also show that our alternative solutions are better. The opposition fears change, but we are offering a fairer, more holistic alternative, continuous assessment, teacher evaluation, and student portfolios. These systems already exist in schools and just need proper policy support and oversight. We're not calling for chaos, we're calling for progress. The opposition argues for tradition, for structure, but not once did they center the argument around the student. We did. We spoke about mental health, equity, and real potential. They defended the exams. We defended the children. This is not just about tests. It's about the kind of society we want to build. Do you want to test score? Do you value test score more than children's well-being? Do you want to keep rewarding inequality? Or are we ready to create a fairer system for all? We argue to vote for transformation, for justice, and for students. Abolish external exams. Let our children be more than just a number. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation, and thanks to all our debaters in this match. Before we leave, we turn over to Mika to really bring this phase of the debate to a conclusion ahead of the results.
Thank you, Jermaine. Is PEP fair, clear, and here, or is there a fairer way? Very, very enlightening points by our debaters between Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Tourism. Give them another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. They have debated the MOOT, be it resolved that external examinations for secondary school placement in Jamaica should be abolished. We want to continue the conversation. Let us know your take on the MOOT. Leave a comment on our social media pages. The judges will now take a short break to deliberate, and the next person you will hear will be from your chief adjudicator, who will sum up the match and let us know the result. Please stay tuned.
Mr. Whiteley, why are you picking on me? Why are you picking on me? What have I ever done, huh? No. But that don't mean you must pick on me. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen viewers, to the results segment of this debate. We just had a debate featuring two very good teams, impressive job they did. We had on proposition the team from Ministry of Justice and facing off their opponents, Ministry of Tourism. The moot that they contested was about whether or not we should abolish this system, this mechanism whereby we place students into secondary schools based on their performance in external exams, yes? And so Team Ministry of Justice presents a characterization of the external tests. First of all, they provide a kind of a historical development of how Jamaica has had the different kinds of external exams, from common entrance to GSAT and now to PEP. And they say to us that what is common with external tests is that they really place students under undue stress. They say as well that they do not accommodate for the diversity of learning styles, and that some students have challenges with respect to things like ADHD and so forth that cause them not to be able to learn in a standardized, structured way the way other students in mainstream education are able to. And they are not accommodated, they say, right? They say as well that the system promulgates and perpetuates economic and social disparities. So they say that, you know, students who are privileged are better able to gain resources and proper education, so that they will do well in these exams and therefore give them an advantage in getting access to the more advanced schools, or the more traditional schools within Jamaica, the preferred schools, generally speaking. And so they are both getting rid of those kinds of inequities within the system. Okay. Now, one of the things that we want to point out here, before I even get to summarizing opposition's case, is that when it is that you've identified a problem and then you committed yourself to an alternative, it is important that you prove that your alternative has some kind of a solvency for the problems that you've identified. So if it is that you're saying that, you know, there are the disparities as you've outlined, you have to prove that these disparities are solved by way of your mechanism, your alternative. Let's move swiftly to the opposition's case. So opposition says to us that we need standards, we need a standardized approach, and we need a kind of a centralized body, in this case the Ministry of Education, to really put a final assessment or certification on the level of education that has been garnered by the student, as is exhibited by way of the PEP examination. They say to us that, insightfully, PEP is unique in that it accommodates the fact that students, when faced with a one-off kind of do or die, zero-sum kind of opportunity, they oftentimes, that level of stress is inimical to their academic advancement and them proving that they are, in fact, proficient to an appropriate extent. So PEP exists over 3 years from grades 4, 5, and 6, and ultimately there are different points at which the students are assessed, for example, based on the abilities test and so forth. And that, they say, does limit to a great extent the one-off stress that would be detrimental to the student in the world such as with common entrance and GSAT. They say to us, the proposition rather, that's Ministry of Justice, tells us that one of the deficiencies with the system right now is that it does not account for important skills like critical thinking, creativity, and of course collaboration. They say that those factors are absent, and they provide a mechanism that they say would be better able to assess those particular attributes. To which team opposition says, well, PEP does evaluate those kinds of things. PEP does evaluate creativity and critical thinking and so forth. And so, in as much as PEP solves for that, PEP does reduce the stress at large. They say that PEP ought to be continued. Now, the question arose as well in the debate about the cost. Team opposition says that team proposition's model is going to be costly. It's going to consume a greater percentage of the budget allocated for education. They do not put a price tag. They do not kind of quantify what this additional cost is. They say that there's going to be a cost that needs to be afforded by team proposition. Team proposition says, well, in reality, PEP already cost about $1 billion. And in as much as we have this $1 billion, we can just redistribute it to whatever additional cost there is to be experienced in the world where proposition has their way. We think that it was a lost opportunity for team opposition to do two things. One, to prove how it is that, or what attributes of team proposition's model will bring about greater costs, right? What is it about team proposition's world that will imbue greater cost to the system and therefore detract from the education budget? And then secondly, give us some kind of quantification to suggest to us that this is more than the $1 billion that is available, that proposition contents can be redistributed to the to their model. So in as much as that's the case, we felt like proposition does get the edge on that particular question. All in all, though, we felt that proposition did not do enough to prove that there is a connection between their arrangement of project-based education, assessment, and so forth, and an education that would seemingly better attend to the mechanisms that they contend are not currently being assessed within the external models of testing. They say that these things are not being done, and their world would do that a little bit more. We wanted to hear clearer articulation of how it is that their world achieves that, more than simply, saying just articulating that that is going to be in fact the case. So, ladies and gentlemen, when all is said and done, the team points are as follows: 273 points to 285 points, a significant margin. The winner of this match in the quarterfinal round of the public sector debate competition for 2025 is the Ministry of Tourism. So congratulations to the Ministry of Tourism, and well tried, Ministry of Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for staying tuned to this debate. But before I close this segment, the best debater in this match comes to us actually from the second place team. That debater is, in fact, the second proposition speaker. And so thank you again for tuning in. Stay tuned. We have another match coming up. Thank you very much. All the best.